Okay, so Christian phraseology. There's obviously a lot of silly stuff that Christians say, unbiblical, sub-biblical things that Christians say, but there are actual biblical phrases that Christians say and they assume the meaning. They just say it as if the phrase, the verse, is a self-contained, self-evident phrase. Tell you what I'm talking about. How many times have you heard people say, "This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it"? Okay, that is a biblical phrase that actually exists. It's a biblical verse. Yeah, this is the day that the Lord has made. I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. But usually when people say that, they mean today, right now, at this very moment, this day, this Tuesday that we're living in right now. This is a day that the Lord has made, and I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. And they think that that's all the passage means. But the passage in its context has a much deeper and much more prophetic and expressive meaning than just, this is today and I like today. I'm enjoying today so far. How's today going for you? While it is an absolute fact that God is absolutely sovereign and every day we get is a day that he has provided for us, I would agree entirely with that. But that's not all the phrase is saying. So let's take a look at what is actually being said when David said, "This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it." It's from Psalm 118. For anybody that would like to look it up, it's Psalm 118, and it's Psalm 118, verse 24. But I'm not going to start at verse 24. I'm going to start reading just before that because the context is very, very important. The context is about David looking forward to the deliverance of Israel, looking forward to the Messiah to come, and that the Messiah, though he is the chief cornerstone in God's economy, he is nevertheless going to be rejected by the builders, in other words, the leaders in Jerusalem, those that are supposed to be defining and explaining the religion of Yahweh that came down from Mount Sinai, that is the theocratic rules that Israel is supposed to live by. God is nevertheless going to send to them a chief cornerstone of their entire religion, and they are going to reject him. And that phrase, the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, is quoted time and time again in the New Testament. In fact, even just in my liner notes here, I'll give you some idea. There it is, verse 22. "The stone which the builders rejected, he has become the chief cornerstone." That's quoted in Matthew 21:42, Mark 12:10 and 11, Luke 20, verse 17, Acts 4:11, Ephesians 2:20, 1 Peter 2:7. It's repeated over and over in the New Testament, and every time it's applying to Christ. So clearly when David says it, it's looking forward to the Messiah, to the Christ to come. And that delivering moment, that gift from God to Israel of a deliverer, a Messiah, who the chiefs of Israel, the chief builders, are going to reject and kill, that's all prophesied right here in this psalm when he says, "The stone which the builders rejected, he has become the chief cornerstone. This is the Lord's doing, this is Yahweh's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." Not marvelous like, oh, simply marvelous. I mean, like something that invokes genuine awe and marvel. It would make you step back and view it with a great deal of wonderment. It is absolutely marvelous in our eyes that God would send Christ, the stone that the builders rejected, And he has become, even though they rejected him, he has become the chief cornerstone. How does that happen? Well, that's got resurrection written all over it. The chief cornerstone sent by God is rejected by the leaders in Israel, and yet he becomes the chief corner of the entire religion, the entire deliverance that God is providing. So this is the stone that the builders rejected. He has become the chief cornerstone. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Okay, there's the context. What David is really saying is, when the Messiah comes, when the one comes who the builders reject, but then God makes him chief corner, that's an absolute marvel to us. And that day, when that happens, David's looking forward to it. When that happens, that is the day that the Lord has made. And so rejoice in it and be glad in it, because he's writing to Israel. That is going to be the deliverance of Israel. It's going to be the Messiah of Israel. And so, of course, Israel should rejoice and be glad in it. So contextually, even though I agree entirely that every single day that we get is a day that the Lord provides, and even though I agree that we should be thankful and enjoy those days, that we should rejoice and be glad in them, that verse, so often taken out of its context, simply does not mean this day, right now, I'm rejoicing in the fact that it's Tuesday. No, what it means is, prophetically, God promised a Messiah, a deliverer to Israel who the leaders would reject, and yet God would make him the chief corner of everything he's doing. It's marvelous in our eyes, and we rejoice, and we're glad in it. Now you see the context? That's why I keep insisting that we have to be careful with these little out-of-context biblical phrases. So let me give you another one. Through the years that I've been in the church, time and time again, I have heard preachers use what I call preacher tricks. In other words, they're phrases that they know are going to get a rise out of their audience. It's things that they can say that are sort of safe ground if they feel like the audience isn't really tracking with them, if the congregation isn't really with them, if they can't really get them revved up. Well, then they will resort to preacher tricks. And those preacher tricks can sometimes be like yelling, "Isn't he good? Isn't he good?" You know, well, what's everybody going to say? No, he's not. Well, yeah, so they're going to respond, yes, he's good. Yes, he's good. And one that's just really, really popular is, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say so." And that's supposed to inspire people to say so. After all, you're redeemed, right? And let the redeemed of the Lord say so. I wrote an article on my blog a couple of years ago called "Let the Redeemed of the Lord Say What Exactly?" Because the way people cite it, they think that what David wrote was, "Let the redeemed of the Lord admit that they are redeemed. Let the redeemed in the Lord say so." Now, my friend Elder Ward, who I have great love and affection for, preached a message that I actually really, really enjoyed, but his was, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say so." And the whole point of the message was, if God be for us, who can be against us? And so when the world brings us all kinds of trouble, when the world conflicts with us because of our faith, when the world goes hard on us, our response ought to be, so. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. So I thought that was kind of amusing, a little twist of a phrase. But in context, what's actually being said is that the Lord is good and his loving kindness lasts forever, and let the redeemed of the Lord say so. So I'm going to read a little bit of that psalm to you because it's really important, again, that we understand context, context, context. It's not just let the redeemed say that they're redeemed. It's actually a very positive affirmation of the fact that God is good to us and good to Israel, despite the fact that they were going through the troubles they were going through. That was David's whole point, is that God is still good, and let the redeemed of the Lord, having been redeemed, having seen the redemption of the Lord, let them say that God is good despite the circumstances. Psalm 107. Psalm 107, starting right at verse 1. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his loving kindness is everlasting. And if there weren't a big "to" right there, remembering again that the chapters and versification were not inspired, they were not added by the original writers of the text. David did not sit down and enumerate each of these sentences. He's continuing the same thought. And if there weren't a "to" there, you'd understand that he was continuing the same thought. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his loving kindness is everlasting. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the adversary and gathered from all the lands, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. They wandered in the wilderness, in a desert region. They did not find a way to an inhabited city. They were hungry and thirsty. Their soul fainted within them. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. He led them also by a straight way to go to an inhabited city. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonders to the sons of men, for he has satisfied the thirsty soul, and the hungry soul he has filled with what is good. There's the context. So what exactly are the redeemed of the Lord supposed to say? They're not just supposed to say so, and they're not supposed to say, I'm redeemed and I say so. They're supposed to say, the Lord is good and his loving kindness is everlasting. That's what the context says. So again, I know I'm beating this over and over and over again, but context matters. Context, context, context.